If it's the first time you're joining our webinar, first of all, hello and welcome. We're Global App Testing. If you hear me call it GAT, it's because it's shorter, but you know, it's one and the same. As the world leader in the crowd testing space, we help and partner with many of the world's largest brands and organizations to understand the global experiences from both a quality and user perspective for our world, well, really our real world crowd testers. To give you an idea of, you know, the scale of that, we have something in the region of access to 100,000, you know, sort of great testers across 190 countries. And if you're interested in this topic or any other for that matter, there's a good chance we can help you as well. On the screen now, you'll be able to see a QR code, so please feel free to scan that. Go to LinkedIn, follow us on LinkedIn or any of our other social channels. So, pitch over. As I mentioned, we have an amazing panel today. Our first speaker is Veronica Di Martino, who is heading the localization function at Eventbrite. Veronica will share the behind-the-scenes insight into Eventbrite's recent rebrand and the global rollout of their innovative new app. To put it into context, they have something in the region of 90 million monthly active users, so it's not a small project to undertake. Our second speaker is Adesiyan. She's a strategic product manager at Walmart, and Ini will be sharing her top 4 strategies for validating product market fit. I'm now excited to hand over to Veronica to share the exciting story from Eventbrite and her recent experience with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I lead localization operations at Eventbrite. I hope you can all hear me well. And today I'm here to tell you the story of how at Eventbrite, we have recently reimagined our consumer app, as well as how our brand is evolving and the ways that our friends at Global App Testing have helped us in being successful. So Eventbrite's mission has always been to bring people together through life experiences. And in today's digital-first world, finding meaningful in-person connections has never been more important. Recognizing this shift in social dynamics, we realized that the time was right for us to update our consumer app and turn the actual event discovery into an experience of its own. The data that we collected showed how today's consumers want more than just a ticket. They want an experience from the time they start making plans and look for events to attend till the moment they look back at their pictures, nostalgically reminiscing of the great time that they had at the event that they attended. Younger generations especially prioritize personalized, curated, and shareable events over just traditional gatherings. With 95% of younger adults eager to bring their online passions into real-world connections, Eventbrite's updated new app now make it easier than ever to get personalized recommendations, explore handpicked lists of events, connect with friends, and make plans together, all with a fresh new look that makes finding your next favorite experience as exciting as being there already. So at the core of this transformation is the path, our new logo. And Eventbrite's new logo symbolizes the journey from discovery to unforgettable moments. So together with this visual refresh, Eventbrite's rebranded app includes also some key new features aimed at inspiring people to discover their new favorite events and make their booking experience fun and functional and bring their friends along the way. Because we all know that life's most meaningful moments happen when we connect with people who share our same interests. So whether that would be finding your new running club, discovering a new comedy show, or just joining your neighborhood walk. Now, amongst the new features that our rebranded consumer app offers, there are 8 lists, which is a discovery experience of event recommendations curated by local experts in many different cities. and Friends, Eventbrite Friends, which is a feature that allows users to sync up their contact lists and find friends who are already on Eventbrite, see which events they're attending, and share your saved events with them, so in order to make up plans together. Now, as we understood how Eventbrite's users were evolving, our product needed to evolve together with them, beyond just being a listing platform, and so to become an active part of how people find and engage with events. We made this shift happen by shifting towards AI-powered personalization, social connectivity, curated recommendations, and in order to become more relevant to our consumers, while all at the same time providing better exposure to the event creators that use our platform to showcase what makes their event so special. So we brought all of this together in one place, making it simpler for organizers to share their stories and for attendees to find the events that they will love. Now, as you would imagine, an initiative of this size, like a total rebrand and relaunch of an app, not only is very complex, but it's a monumental cross-functional effort. And amongst the partners that helped us achieving this, both internally and externally, there are our friends at Global App Testing. Now, because of the nature of the localization team that I lead, at the moment we're missing a very key component of the rebranding, basically. We were missing boots on the ground for our non-English speaking markets, and people who would basically play the role of our international consumers and who could be their voice. So we realized at that point that we had a lot of blind spots, and that was a risk that we just couldn't have taken. So this is where our friends at Global App Testing brought the biggest value during our collaboration together. At that point, the rebranded app was almost fully developed, and we were a couple months away from the launch. And I knew that I previously worked with the Global App Testing in the past on an initiative that involved an in-depth product audit of 2 specific locales on a previous global expansion program that I led before. So I knew that we had the right people there to help us with strong QA evaluation of our rebranded app. And frankly, our experience with Global App Testing went beyond just the technical value that they were bringing. I always felt supported, and I truly enjoyed the relationship that we were building. And I think that's how I landed here today. To give you some more technical details on how the QA phase of our multilingual rebranded app was executed, we basically got together and agreed on a set of requirements and aligned exactly on what were our expectations and what we needed. And we came up with a very thorough testing plan ahead of the launch. Now, the sequencing of this initiative was also very particular and got a lot of really good attention from the testers, because although the app was 100% developed, at the same time, our developers were, and it was also like 100% localized. At the same time, our Eventbrite's developers were still working on like final fixes, releasing app enhancements. So there was a lot of overlapping while coordinating the testing phase. And so that meant that the app was not 100% stable, and it caused with obviously some issues, and that we were basically discovering along the way. We decided to perform a hybrid set of tests that included an exploration round with like functional testing and usability testing. And basically the testers were spread out all over our available markets, and they were intuitively going through the app and documenting during their discovery phase, documenting anything that wasn't working as intended and also that needed improvement under a localization perspective. So think obviously like linguistic accuracy, cultural relevance. And on top of this, we also executed a series of targeted test cases with a special integrity focus over the new features that the rebranded app was launching. So this very comprehensive QA round was executed for all our available locales in both iOS and Android systems for all devices. And we made sure also to hold special mindfulness on international principles of accessibility while we were testing. The results that we collected from this testing phase not only validated the ones we gathered internally, but also offered even more perspective. This initiative made sure that our rebranded native app is updated correctly for all different languages and cultures that we offer, and is also verified by to be accessible by international users of all abilities. The work that we did together with Global App Testing contributed in expanding the knowledge that we already have around our international Eventbrite users. And we were able to gather valuable insights around local in-market user behavior that we wouldn't have been able to find otherwise. The data that we collected from the test results helped us to make sure that we keep on offering a relevant product globally, and ultimately that it also contributes to develop a better informed global expansion strategy. But what's most important is that thanks to this story, the people all over the world will be able to gather in real life in all our available market, thanks to our rebranded app. And special thanks to our friends at Global App Testing who helped us make this happen.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Really, really, super interesting. And we were obviously talking about the social element of your app, and there's some seriously innovative stuff going on there. But I think I've just noted a couple of questions, and I would definitely like, if possible, any of the attendees and people that are sort of dialed in at the moment, if you've got any questions, we've got the panel coming up shortly. So please, any questions for our guests or myself or any of my other colleagues, then please do type in. But I guess I'll get part of it, but what was the primary goal of the rebrand from the business perspective?
So we realized that basically, as I said at the beginning, how much our consumers were evolving and how much our users were evolving, and they were also looking a different way to discover and engage with events from the minute they start thinking, oh, I want to make plans this weekend. So I think from an attendee perspective, maybe it was limited to just offer a product and an app that was just a listing of events, and it didn't feel as interactive and engaging as they needed. So basically, once we realized the way that our users were evolving, we needed to make a serious commitment towards their evolution and our company's evolution, and that's how the rebranded initiative basically was born. Also, the lack of features that are key nowadays, like the social connectivity part, making sure that you can make plans together with your friends, that once you are at the event, you can share your experience through your social media. So all these features were missing in the old version of the app, and they're key to how people engage with events these days.
Perfect. Really, really cool. And then obviously there's a lot of product changes, and it was to entrust with supporting the new project and the sort of the nice new thing for the business. It's not something you do just off the cuff. But so I imagine there were some targets that GAT were measured against. Is that something that you're happy to share?
Yeah, so we had an idea of obviously what we're looking for from the testing plan, and we went together, sat down with your project managers and all our contacts at Global App Testing, exactly so that everybody could understood what our requirements were. And so there were different targets, obviously, according to the different markets that we are localized in. we were looking for more than just, you know, language accuracy and like just the cultural relevance. All of this was a mix of really well curated testing programs. So basically, like the functionality piece was very important for us, according to also like to which country you know you're at, making sure that we were offering the correct payment options. So it just goes beyond you know the content localization. It just makes sure you really want to make sure that you're offering the right product fit in this case. So are we offering the correct payment options? Are we making sure that you know, like is the app stable enough in a country or in a market maybe with less, you know, like internet penetration? So there's all these you know, like factors that you need to keep in mind. Also, like an interesting case is the German market for us. Up until this point, up until the rebrand, we had a bit more of a formal way of speaking to them. And understanding the type of audience that we're targeting right now, it's obviously your, imagine your typical Berlin event goer. They probably don't want to speak very formally. They probably are about to go to like a really cool festival, and so they want to make sure that the event app that they're engaging with, that is offering all these like really cool lists of events, is speaking in the same way. So hence that prompted a shift in the tone of voice, and just like a different way that we also like culturally approach our users.
Brilliant, thank you. And I guess post launch, you're still here. We're still talking. How has the rebrand gone? And I think is there anything that you can share amongst this? I know there's another question actually a little bit similar, so I'll come to that in a moment. But can you share with us any early information or data about the success of the rebrand?
Yeah, so far so good. It's just like recently been launched. This was at the beginning of March, so we're just like 2 months in. So it's still considered like adoption period, and also like we are just ahead of one of our busiest seasons, which is like right before like festival seasons, outdoors gathering that usually increases during the summer for a lot of parts of the world. But year on year, the app users have already increased or like 13% so far. And we've also seen an increase not only in traffic, but also obviously like in ticket sales. So we've seen both really positive results in the way that people engage with the app, like new downloads and, brand new users. So like our traffic is up 13%, and this also results in more tickets sold. So hopefully it'll keep on increasing and going better and better.
Win-win. Well, I think this actually sort of coincides well with this question. So it's an anonymous attendee. So there's been a bit of an aesthetic shift towards Gen Z and younger millennials, trying to phase out people like myself. Obviously not. But how has this been received with the older demographics? And have they been able to enjoy and stay along with the journey?
That's a really good question. Thank you for the anonymous user. So I don't have exact data on those, but I think just we want to make sure we stay relevant to our users, and at the same time without excluding anybody. So our app is still like really intuitive. The way that it speaks and the functionalities, if anything, the user experience of it just got better, and it's just like easier. So even if somebody is not necessarily a Gen Z, should benefit from a better overall user experience. Not everybody might relates to the like little funky looking cactuses or mushrooms walking around the app, but we think it's the way that we want to engage with our users is really fun, really engaging, and so it just speaks to the brand identity.
Brilliant stuff. Okay. Right. So thank you so much. I'm sure everyone on the call is, suitably impressed and excited for your journey moving forward. So we'll come back to some more questions in a bit. We've got the panel in a moment, but without further ado, we've got our other special guest. We've got Ini, who's going to be covering off some of the different use cases and sort of strategies in success. Ini, over to you, if I may. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance. It's really great to hear the story of how Eventbrite has sort of reintroduced itself to the market. It's exciting. Well done, Veronica. Wishing you all the best with that. All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Ini. I currently work as a senior product manager on the seller insights and recommendations team at Walmart, specifically Walmart Fulfillment Services, which I'll be referring to as WFS going forward. Prior to that, I spent 4 years on the buy payments experience team at eBay. I owned the shopping cart experience, also owned the post-transaction order details experience across all country sites and all platforms. Really excited to be here. Feel free to connect with me via the LinkedIn QR code that you can see. Today, like Lance said, I'll be discussing some strategies that I have used to validate local PMF, especially during times of change, whether that's shifting internal priorities or external influences that are requiring that we shift. So feel free to drop any questions, comments in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them after the presentation. All right, so next slide, please. Yeah, let's meet Johnny. Johnny is madly in love with his girlfriend, Sophia. They've dated for 3 years. He's finally ready to propose. And so like any thoughtful partner will do, Johnny starts researching for the perfect ring. He pours hours into this, ensuring that Sophia has everything she's wanted, platinum band, ethically sourced, all the bells and whistles. Johnny's confident that he's nailed every feature and it's perfect. Proposal day comes, the ambience is great, sun is setting, music in the background, and he asks Sophia the question, will you marry me? Sophia obviously says yes, and he puts the ring on her finger, but as you can see in this picture, it won't fit. It's too tight. And so Johnny has focused on everything. He's focused on all the features, getting the right things, getting all the things that Sophia would like, but he forgot the fundamental question of would the ring fit? You might think this is a crazy story and does this ever happen? But it's literally the equivalent of what we do when we build great products with amazing features, but we don't understand the nuances of the users in different markets. And so we create a product that doesn't fit. So like I said at the top of this slide, don't be Johnny. Don't build a ring that is perfect. Build one that fits. All right. So just wanted to use that to hone in the point. I think everyone will probably remember that story. And so now let's discuss some of the strategies that we can use for local PMF. This isn't meant to be an exhaustive list. It's just a few practical approaches that I've personally used or have seen work. The first is agile A/B testing. It is so important to have the capability to run rapid localized experiments, especially when you're working across different markets. For example, eBay, as we probably all know, is a global marketplace. We have customers in over 130 countries, and the way that people transact in each of these countries varies significantly. In the US market, credit cards dominate, but in a country like China, Alipay and WeChat Pay account for over 90% of all mobile payments. We noticed that there was an approximately 30% conversion delta between our US and Chinese markets. And in order to close that gap, we ran localized tests. So this was experimenting with things from the available payment methods to the default ordering of payment methods to even auto-filling behaviors on contact details. Each of these things felt like small tweaks, but they were seemingly small tweaks that helped us to uncover what actually worked in each market. And that's because a one-size-fits-all experience does not optimize conversion. eBay had an in-house experimentation platform, but there are also other tools that can be used like Launch Darkly and Optimizely. And these tools help teams A/B test and iterate quickly without requiring a full engineering cycle upfront. Now, the second strategy is localized instrumentation. Now, one of the biggest risks I see with global teams is that we over-index for HQ assumptions. And that seems and sounds like a good strategy in theory, but what happens is when disruptions hit locally, whether that's an economic shift, a new tariff, a pandemic, cultural nuances, these assumptions can break and they change how our users interact and engage with our product. The way that we can quickly pick up these behavioral changes is through localized instrumentation. And that is instrumentation that captures local behaviors at a granular level. So today, when I build my dashboards, I'm always thinking about what's the most granular and meaningful segmentation that my product requires. At Walmart, for example, we have international sellers, which represent a significant portion of our WFS business. And they were recently impacted by the end of the de minimis exemption, which is a tax rule that allows packages under $800 to enter the US duty-free. Without localized instrumentation, we will not have been able to see quickly the shifts in their behaviors. Also, I think it's important to call out here that we need to be tracking not just lagging indicators like GMV and business KPIs, but we also need to be tracking leading indicators, adoption metrics, engagement metrics, because those actually help us see those shifts faster. Overall, the goal is to get to real-time or near real-time visibility into how usage patterns are changing so that we have timely nudge if a bit starts to break. The third strategy I'll be talking about is personalization. And in 2025, personalization is table stakes. Customers expect experiences that are relevant, contextual, and convenient. At eBay, I ran hundreds of experiments, and whether we segmented by geography, by spend, by engagement on our platform, by the device that they were using, behavioral deltas always existed. And we moved personalization from a feature that was just like nice to have to a strategic lever, especially because as a shopping cart PM, a 1% increase in conversion translated to a $50 million incremental GMV. So there was a need to really address what each segment needed and be able to do that at scale. I've also seen a similar pattern in Walmart because we offer dynamic replenishment recommendations to WFS sellers so they can send their inventory to us to help them fulfill. And these recommendations that we provide depend heavily on context. I'll use the international sellers again as an example. A US-based seller might be able to replenish inventory to our fulfillment centers within days. But when we're recommending replenishment units and quantities to our international sellers, we need our models to account for the manufacturing time, international shipping, custom clearance, and all these other things that might impact their inventory before it ever hits the US network. So this level of personalization helps to ensure that recommendations are not just realistic, but they're also actionable for every seller that's receiving them. The fourth strategy we'll talk about is local agents. And this means embedding part-time local scouts and agents into markets. This is super valuable because they can capture qualitative insights fast and also frequently. They can catch shifts in perceptions, frustrations, or even unmet needs before they escalate to a place where it's actually beginning to hurt the brand. I've personally not been able to deploy local scouts to foreign markets, but what I do is I'm able to use natural language processing to understand different sentiments across different geographies that we operate in. So I'm able to pick up the regional nuances and how users express satisfaction or frustration with our products. At Walmart, we also have like advisory boards that can act as local agents because they are able to give us timely insights on our product and what is shifting in the local markets. I also think that global app testing, as Veronica has shared, can be super useful here as well to help validate in local markets how things are fitting, products are fitting, or where they are breaking. The fifth strategy we'll talk about is flexible and scalable architecture. I think this one is super important for PMs because we're constantly balancing shifting priorities. We're trying to move fast. And that means that we often take on tech debt. When we are building for multiple markets, I don't think speed alone is enough. I think we have to balance that with flexibility. And this is where modular architecture comes into play. I always ask my engineering teams, how can we design our systems to scale across geographies and to adapt to local needs without requiring us to rebuild everything over again every time for different markets? At eBay, we had checkout system that was really designed to be modular. And what that meant is we could surface Venmo in the US and we could surface Alipay in China. And we're doing this all from the same code base. This flexibility allows us to ship things faster, test locally, and also respond to market shifts without having to, again, reinvent the wheel every time. This is also why I advocate for PMs to stay tightly aligned with business, because if the company is thinking globally, then modularization cannot be an afterthought because it's a multiplier for velocity and local fit. So it needs to be something that we're considering as we're creating our roadmaps. In conclusion, a great product isn't just functional, it's also contextually relevant because teams, product teams, localization teams, we need to invest in agile testing, personalization, localized insights, and also flexible architecture to ensure that we are positioned to make sure that our product fits each market and also can scale. So remember, don't be Johnny. Build products that don't just have all the right features, but also products that fit. Back to you, Lance.
Thank you. Well, look, we're seeing some of the innovation that you've been working on, and with both Veronica and yourself, we've obviously got some masters of the subject matter. So really appreciate the overview. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to switch across to our panel questions. I know I've got some predefined questions that all the audience who have registered for the event have asked, or does anyone else on the call at the moment, if you want to post any questions or anything that you want to sort of try and understand further, please feel free. But I think firstly, Veronica, if I may ask you, we hear it mentioned a lot, but what do we actually mean by a product or market fit?
Well, I think Ini's presentation was very comprehensive. It was I really enjoyed it, Ini. So yeah, definitely building the product that your user base needs or value. So knowing exactly what value you're bringing to your consumers. So first step for that is know what kind of consumer you're targeting. What exactly do they need? Or what they value, and maybe something that they don't have yet, and make it relevant. So and obviously customizing that according to what market you're going in. It goes from offering and providing the right payment options towards making sure that you're in season. Well, in our case, you're in season with the trendy events for that specific geographic location. It goes from just it can expand so much, and it goes from making sure that you have the exact features and everything that your product needs to be relevant and needed by your user base, but also all the way to making sure that it's super personalized in that case, and user just relate to it. So I think like was also saying, like not only like making sure that you're offering the right product, it's something that they truly need, but also that it speaks to them, so it feels personal to them.
Brilliant, thank you. And Innie, you've obviously worked with eBay, Walmart, two of the world's leading businesses, but the definition of product and market fit, how does it differ across organizations?
Yeah, so product market fit can be different depending on a couple of things, like what's the stage of the company. And Veronica mentioned like now they're trying to measure adoption because that's the stage, it's still an early stage. So early stage companies might over index on adoption. It could also be late stage companies too. Like we know that Amazon went through a phase where they were just bleeding revenue because the goal was to ensure that they actually had a fit, like customers were actually adopting and finding the platform very useful. So I think depending on the stage of the company is in, product market fit can look different. And then if you go even more granular into like different organizations across the company, so you have like financial organizations, like we talked about payments a lot on this call. Like, do the payment methods fit the market? Is it relevant to the market? That might differ from maybe someone else who might be measuring just adopting the product. Is the product at the top of the funnel? Are users actually adopting the product? So that could also look different from, say, if you're like maybe like a growth team where you're looking at like acquisition, or your product team where you're looking at like feature engagement, or you're like your finance team looking at unit economics. Like depending on what you are doing in the organization, you might be measuring fit a little differently. And so that's why, again, I really advocate for product teams and localization teams to understand not just their product or not just the experience that they're trying to build, but also be very tightly aligned with the business and the strategy. Because again, typically companies have what we call OKRs, where we set like the overall objective and then key results for each of the individual orgs. Like it's good to understand how we're indexing on something without breaking something else. So we'll typically have like metrics that we're measuring, but also counter metrics that we're ensuring that, hey, we're not over indexing on one part of the business at the expense of another. So just product market fit could look different depending on where you sit in the company and depending on the stage of the company as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, look, by the sounds of it, for both of you, it's always dynamic. There are always changes. You can't rest, and you're having to sort of move quickly as new things come about. And you talked about some of the charges and sort of new things that are constantly evolving. So really, really good insights. Let's have a look into questions. We've got any other? There we go. So we have Deborah. Thank you, from Deborah Amato. Personalization is key as expected. However, how do you find a balance in personalization, providing users with relevant content whilst allowing room for serendipity and avoiding sort of overwhelming them? So I guess maybe Veronica first, or who wants to take that first?
Yeah, I can go. I think it's, like with everything, balance is always, like the goal, but also like the most difficult thing to find. I think like staying true to like the values of the company is like one, very first solid foundation that you never want to go too far away. So even if you want to personalize and customize according to market or according to like target audience, but without staying away too much, like going too far away from what's your like original mission and what are the principles and the overall ethos of your company. Like for example, I know that our app looks like really young and fun and vibrant, but it is an app for everybody. Like the user experience, like I was saying, like if anything, just got better for everybody. So it might look like it's directly targeting younger audiences, but the benefit of having the rebrand and in the new features, in the way that people discover events, is just, you know, like a lot better user experience for everybody. So just making sure that you are staying true to what's the, you know, the overall mission of the product of your company, that you're, you know, for the initiative that you are working on. And then I think also like lean on your partnerships, you know, like in this case with working with global app testing or translation agencies, or like other people that work with you that might have that local knowledge, and that will help you understand where is the middle ground, where do we meet here. So, you know, I think there's so much value that people on the ground can bring to an initiative like this, or just building product. And so like just also don't be afraid to kind of like know what are your limits, you know, like this is your product, and you want to go for you know, like asking for help to the right partners that will inform that strategy going forward a lot better.
Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, yes, absolutely agree with like what Veronica has said. I think it's very critical to understand what the need is. So, the product leaders I've worked with, they've always like encouraged me, stay married to the problem. Don't stay married to like the solution, right? So personalization might not be the right solution for every single thing, but there are problems where personalization is the right solution, right? So how does a seller know how much inventory to replenish? Because if they send too much, they're going to get charged storage fees at the end of the day if they don't sell, right? So we want to find that right balance to ensure that they are able to send exactly what is required, what we have forecasted that they will be able to sell within the period that they have those sales, that they have those inventories in the fulfillment centers. So I think personalization might not be the right response for everything, and that's where you have getting qualitative insights as well from your users, having localization partners that you're working with, but then also being married to the problem, not just the solution. And I think at eBay, for example, we ran hundreds of experiments. You're able to do data-driven personalization, like doing A/B tests, and in that way, you're able to give the right solution to the right problem, as opposed to overwhelming the users, like you said. Doing data-driven tests can really help with that.
Perfect. Okay. Well, look, we've just, you know, I had a load more questions I was going to ask, but I know we haven't got much time left, but maybe one for each of you. Look, in communication wise there, Veronica, it's a very bold move to have a relaunch of a very successful app with 90 million monthly active users and, you know, something that is working. Did you find yourself having to sort of push back on leadership with change, and you know, and how did you address this, if so, or were they just, you know, welcoming to such a big project?
Yeah, there will be the inside stories where not everybody might agree on the same path forward, or like might have different proposals. And I think I guess like making sure that you stay focused on what the end goal is of the initiative is what helps like staying collaborative and making sure everybody is involved and communicate in a way that reinforces that a feeling of, okay, we're all working towards the same goal here, and reinforcing that idea that you're sharing the same mission. But obviously there are the occasions where you know exactly that maybe what's being proposed at that time is not necessarily the best solution, and in that case you just need to own up to it. Like sometimes this is not easy to push back, especially to leadership. But in my case, for example, the wording and like the terminology that was used for our recommended event recommendations in the app that's called It Lists. That's obviously, it sounds really American. It sounds really like you're it, like the it event that you really need, like you can't miss it. it caused a lot of challenges for our translators and, in under localization lens. So yes, you have to kind of like do an humble exercise, but also like own up to, the knowledge and the value that you bring, because at the same time you're speaking for international users. They wouldn't understand and therefore compromise the functionality of that specific feature if it's not understood for the right purpose. So I had to push back in that case, and we gave a lot of freedom and creativity to our linguists in that case, and came up with a lot better fitted terminology that is working for our app. So in cases like that, yes, make sure that you are keep your eyes on the same direction, but absolutely, like, you are there to be the expert of your own specific area and own up to it.
Perfect. Well, you obviously did an amazing job there. Inni, I'm going to give you the final words before we wrap up. So, again, any top tips that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I think my summary is basically make sure you're using all these tools, or some of these tools at least, to ensure that you have product market fit, or you're able to measure product market fit if it breaks. I think a couple of tools that I have used, Mixpanel is really good, shows you behavioral, the customer behavior on your products. Looker, you also built Tableau. I mentioned Launch Darkly and Optimizely for A/B testing. There's also things like Pendo that you can use to get feedback in app from your customers. And you can also have like agents being placed in the local market, or use global app testing. So I think it's important to just make sure that as product managers and localization managers, we have a sense of what is happening with our users, and not just over-index for global assumptions, but actually figure out what works in the individual markets.
Perfect. Well, look, really, really good to have you ladies on board today. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hearing your stories. I hope everyone in the audience has enjoyed it too. You will actually get a copy of today's recording. Otherwise, hopefully you'll reach out to us if you're not already working with us, and please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. This will actually be published on YouTube and across all our social. And until the next episode that we launch, which will be soon. Goodbye, and thank you.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Take care. Bye.